Hi, Miss Covered in Paint here with another episode of Critique Me Not. Here we have a picture I drew when I was 12 years old of my 150-page story, Angel's Story. But originally here you can see it was very undeveloped. Here's like one of the first designs of Life. You can tell she's come a long way from my other drawings of her. I'm not sure what this character is or what he's holding. I think that's a gun or a banana. There's three other girls which are based off of my friends. You can see I had problems drawing feet, hands the right way. Oh, hands. 7 fingers, you guys. 7 fingers. And I don't even know what's going on there. But yeah, a lot of improvement come a long way. But yeah, so there's a lot to talk about with this multiple character piece. I hope that you guys see some things about how to draw hands and composition. There's actually another guy character. I don't know where Alex went. That might be Alex, or it could be Seth, or it's both of them. I don't know. But there's 2 guys, so this composition is going to have to change in order to make space for another person. This would probably, if you had to use like this orientation, would be a better composition. But it's best if we rotate the canvas to a horizontal layout. And I'm just going to go through and make more of an offset composition so that we're not having the main character in the center. We're going to have her over to the thirds, left rule of thirds or something. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 characters, and I didn't want it to be like symmetrical where it's like 3 on one side, 3 on the other side. So putting it offset really helps break that down. These are just the initial sketches of the characters, and you can see I'm just playing around with different poses and spacing between everybody, and it's gonna keep changing as I keep drawing, so just stick around. Anyway, yeah, so I don't know if you know much about the story. I know I've talked quite a bit about Life in my other drawings, but actually there are several characters, side characters in the story, and they're kind of her little posse from school, and they're all based off of friends. Well, all the girls are based off of friends in real life. The 2 boys, Alex and Seth, are based off of Final Fantasy characters and kind of stick to their personality tropes, which is hilarious because, you know, you'd think I'd have some guy friends I could shove in there, but I didn't. So I'm trying to stick to the redesign of Life that I originally did. Of course, Life was originally based off of me, but in an idealized way, the way I would want it to look. And that's definitely not where I have her today. I kind of took those ideas and pushed them so that her design makes a little bit more sense and is a little less Mary Sue, but nonetheless she is a Mary Sue character, so don't get too upset if she just looks kind of boring. But yeah, so here I've got Life's hair. It's actually purple, but we're going to stick with black and white today, so I'm going to ink it in. And then her outfit I would stick with is the tube top and the jeans, which is really funny because back then in junior high I never wore shorts, and so I thought it was the coolest thing ever that you could wear jeans all the time. And then I thought tube tops were like the coolest shirt ever, but of course I was only in junior high, so I was never allowed to wear them. But yeah, as soon as I was in high school it was a thing. So she's very just like ideal from my childhood, and part of that still sticks with her, but then I feel like I've kind of fleshed her out a little bit more as a character. I don't think I'd ever really reboot this story just because it's just a train wreck, but it's kind of fun to think about how I could maybe fix it. I haven't really reached a point where I've been like, yeah, actually this is a good story. It still always kind of flops at the end, but yeah, here it is. Life's character, again, she's just good at everything. She's on this search to find her way back home to the heavenly places. She's like an angel that's been banished, accidentally kind of casted down from the heavenly places, and so she's trying to get back, and she ends up in a boarding school. And so the story is actually more of a slice of life kind of thing, but I also was really into action, so I gave them all weapons and wrote a bunch of fight scenes, which was kind of ridiculous and out of place. So if I was to redo this story, I would not make them all crazy ninja fighters, and that's the reason why I took away their weapons, because it just didn't make sense to have them so aggressive and combative, I guess. And here I decided to give Life bare feet because I feel like as an angel that would be more natural to her, and that she'd have some sort of weird like desire to be connected and grounded to the earth with her bare feet. I don't know, something like that. Alright, so here I am kind of designing Alex. I based him off of Titus from Final Fantasy X, because that was like the only guy that was interesting to me, I guess, back then. And he wasn't even real. But he's more, again, he's not, I don't know what's the opposite man version of a Mary Sue, but he doesn't really have much character either. So I'm basing him off of more of a generic high school guy. Their characters are supposed to be around 17 years old, in their senior year of high school. But anyway, I was just drawing him from the back here, and I realized I really don't know how to draw Jean butts very well. You guys, if you've watched a previous episode where I drew Life, I also had difficulty drawing her butt. And same with Alex here. I think I need some more practice. It's kind of embarrassing, but looks like I made it through pretty okay at the end. Just had to look up a lot of reference, which isn't a bad thing. But yeah, so I kind of liked having Alex facing away, back to back. In case you didn't pick up, he's like the main love interest for Life. And he doesn't really have much development other than he's like there for moral support. I don't know if what I would do to his character to make him more interesting. I feel like he would be really interested in Life, but she wouldn't be really interested in him. And I think that could add a lot of drama to the story with this idea that, you know, she's more focused on going home and returning to her old life, but then she's making all these new relationships and friendships, and I don't know, maybe he could be like, oh, but I love you. She's like, well, I don't love you, and I'm leaving now. And he's like, my heart's broken. I don't know, something like that, something sad. But here I'm moving on to the next character, which is Danielle. Danielle was based off of my actual friend, so here I'm actually drawing her at the actual age, which is kind of funny because, you know, when I wrote this at 12, I didn't know what we'd look like when we were 17, but now that I'm in my 20s, we're all in our 20s, I can go back and see photos of that time, and that's what I'm basing the characters off of now. I originally based her off of Final Fantasy VI main character. I've never played Final Fantasy VI, so I still don't even know her name, but she's the main chick character in Final Fantasy VI. Here you can see, though, she looks very different than my actual friend. And I think this challenge here was just capturing the likeness and the features without becoming over stylized or over realistic. So keeping it simple, but then really capturing the things to exaggerate. I think I could have done a better job. I feel like her face is still a little bit too angular and like it's a little too more like complicated. It's not simplified enough, but I mean, it works. I think the line quality really helps make it look like it all belongs together. So Danielle's character is like the first person to meet Life. It's kind of like that first friend character that sticks with her. But she makes other friends when she goes to her boarding school. And that would be like Olivia here. And it's kind of funny because like Olivia was my friend in real life, but then in the story she really doesn't do anything. She's just kind of a third wheel there. She's a really cool fighter. Like in real life she did karate and stuff. So when I designed her for the story, I wanted her to be like that badass girl character that like fought crazy things. But yeah, I don't know if I'm changing it to a slice of life story. I guess she could add more of like a different perspective, more edgy life kind of advice versus her other friends, which were much more naive and young. So that could maybe be like her character trait in the new reboot if I was ever to do one. Hands. How do they hold each other? This is kind of like a closed off look. I'd imagine Olivia wouldn't get along with her other friends, and that she'd be more of like this outside kind of advice person that she would meet with. Adding some spot blacks, you can see, helps give some continuity to each character. Like they all seem like they belong in that photo together. It also helps balance it out and not make it look too white and just airy. You know, you want some spot blacks to hold it down. Yeah, the eyes and the mouth are really important to get, and the eyebrows and the face shape, and that's probably like the big struggle. Olivia was much easier, I feel like, to stylize because she's got these like heavy eyes, but yeah, I definitely struggled with exaggerating the perspectives of Danielle. Or not perspective, features of Danielle. Alright, so moving on to Seth, who is based off of Squall from Final Fantasy VIII. And he is the other guy character. He's just kind of a bro, doesn't really do much in the story other than like defend and talk about Emily, because that's his girlfriend, and Emily is based off of Rinoa, so it only made sense they would be dating, but it was, yeah, very weird for me to write since I hadn't been in a relationship, and at that point I was writing none of my friends had been in a relationship, so it was all very like funny to see what I would choose and act and have characters do. But anyway, here he's definitely not Squall, and I came up with the idea to give him a Letterman jacket to kind of add that he was in high school, but then also just give him something that made him different from Alex. Since Alex is wearing jeans and a t-shirt, I couldn't have Seth wearing jeans and a t-shirt too. Alright, so you can see Seth is pretty simple compared to the other characters. His face is really easy to just knock out, and that's probably because, again, he's not based off of a real person, and he's just from my imagination at this point. But now we're moving on to Emily, who is very much based off of a real person, and so her likeness was definitely like something I needed to work at grabbing here. Yeah, so originally Emily was based off of Rinoa, which is nothing like Emily, which is kind of sad because I feel like Emily, out of all my friends, had the most character. So here we have more of what she actually looked like in high school, and I think it's funny because as I draw her, I realize she looks a lot like the main bad guy, Aridne, and I think if I was to redo the story, it would be more interesting to make Aridne kind of a mystery where we don't know who she is, and then have it turn out to be Emily in the end. I feel like that would make the story a bit more dramatic. But yeah, her trope is kind of just this sweet, spunky girl that's like head over heels for this guy and helps out whenever she can, but most of the time is just kind of love struck with this guy, Seth. But yeah, so overall, I feel like adding a gradient just kind of spices up this composition a little bit and helps make it a little bit more interesting, because it is kind of just people standing there and you don't know what they're doing. Hopefully my little narration here has given you guys a little bit of insight as to who they are and what their personalities are like, but I know it's pretty vague. But yeah, so here I'm picking out a font. I definitely wanted it to be two different fonts, but I didn't want it to be too stark of a difference, and I think by italicizing story helps it adapt to the Angel. So here we can see the original! Wow, what a difference. 12 years makes a lot of change. So, I hope you learned something about compositions and hands and just horrible writing from when you're 12 years old, and that's totally okay. And I hope you guys learned something and had fun. So, I'll see you guys next week with another movie.